Chapter number 1 is about number systems. We will talk about a lot of mathematics rules and facts and figures and formulas that will be used in each and every upcoming chapters. But I think that basic introduction to our mathematics is very important, that what is actually maths and why it is actually needed in our daily life. Maths is also written or known as mathematics because maths or mathematics is actually a branch of science. And science has different branches like physics, chemistry, biology, and those students who like to pursue or follow the field of engineering, they actually study mathematics. But I think mathematics should be studied by each and every student because it is not ultimately diminished or it is not ultimately ended when we actually come into our practical life. Maths or mathematics should always be studied by every single student, whether they discuss or opt any subject like biology or any else, but it should be studied by every single student because it is actually very practically applicable in our daily life. Now if we start from the very first chapter of number systems, number systems is actually from the Punjab textbook board, and this whole book is actually applicable to the students of pre-engineering and also to the students of ICOM or who also do the degree of mathematics like information technology, IT, and every single degree that actually involves some subject of maths. This book is applicable and it contains all good chapters that actually discuss all the important formulas and definitions and exercises, and they should be studied carefully. And I think a book should be studied in a careful way overall, and when it comes to the paper point of view, then I think only you may say that smart learning should be adopted, which will be discussing actually. Like for example, if this chapter is actually having approximately more than 10 pages or 20 pages or 30 pages, but because it depends that how this book was scanned. This book actually I have taken from the Google, and sometimes I think teachers or the people who are in our teacher circle or friend circle, they do not actually share the source of books, that where those books are available. Sometimes they just say that you have to actually purchase from the market. That is actually true, but I think soft form should also be easily accessible or easily available to every student, because sometimes I think that soft form not only helps in studying anywhere, because you cannot carry your hard book everywhere. It is important to actually carry a soft copy of that book everywhere. So this is a good initiative if somebody has actually scanned and uploaded it on Google website, random Google website, because it is actually you may say that I will be sharing its soft link as well after we will be discussing all the chapters. But of course, I will be making the content or the sharing the educational content regarding chapter wise. So I will be sharing the link in my description for the chapter number 1, because today we are discussing the chapter number 1, number systems. but I will be expecting all the audience who is actually listening or who is actually practicing knowledge or who is pursuing education or taking education or something, doing degree in any field of education, to make notes, to make good notes. Always students remember that you should always make good notes, and do not worry if you do not have that, you may say that you do not have that kind of thinking. So how to make it? Because this thinking should not be in your mind that we are not good enough to do anything. One any student should always feel that we are capable of doing anything. We have all those resources, we have all those motivations to continue in our life. Never think you are a failure. Never think you are a bad student. Never think that you cannot do anything. You can achieve anything. So these tiny motivations will be in between, and some tips, motivational tips. But I think the very first thing that I want to actually explain before starting the chapter is that every teacher should be respected and every student should be respected as well. Whose respect works both ways. And also, if there is some question, I think they should be welcomed. And in my channel, every kind of good question or curious question or any confusion, if you have related to, you may ask relating to the mathematics chapters or the content that I am sharing, because it is educational content. But I think if you have any kind of questions, you can also put in my comment box. It can be related to the daily life as well, and it can be related as well. It's okay, and it should be respectful. It should not be abusive, or I do not support abusive language. And I will support good comments. Appreciation is, I think, the door of success. And I will always appreciate the people who will support my content, and most welcome questions will be answered. And I think those students who cannot afford any kind of tuitions or any kind of scholarships, or I think any kind of tips or tricks by specific teachers, are also warmly welcomed in this channel. This is not to highlight anyone's weakness, that not having money or sufficient pocket money to afford any kind of classes is actually a bad thing. I think it is actually very good, because sometimes life teaches you something. You may say that by eating a bad apple, you will definitely appreciate a good apple in future, right? So always stay positive, always stay motivated in your life. Never feel that you cannot do anything or you cannot achieve anything, because failure is a part of life. It's okay if you have faced certain failures, but if you can start from day one or one day, because one day means that one day I will start. But if you decided that this is my day one, that I want to change my life, then everything is possible. And I can feel that sometimes hurdles or obstructions are very very much in our way, because sometimes we are not feeling well physically healthy, and sometimes there are obstructions or hurdles of finances, and sometimes we do not have time because of our emotions or anything outside factor. But I think that overall we should always stay motivated and motivate our friends. This channel is particularly for those people who do not find enough motivation in their life to do or continue their education in any way. But I am here to actually my introduction is, I am a civil engineer, and I did my engineering as well. I actually studied all of these books, and I was actually the best scorer overall. And I believe that knowledge is like a continued line, or it is like a continued light, and that light should never be shut off to anyone. It should be continued, whether it is Like, I think useful education or useful content should always be shared overall, and I think that being the best scorer, I will also share my life experiences, like how it actually felt to be a topper or actually the best scorer overall in every test or in every field of life. Like, alhamdulillah, I was, but I think that this scenario also places so much pressure when we are scoring great. It's like playing cricket or any good game. You just want to achieve greatness or achieve best score or achieve the best goals. And with the best scorer or topper mindset, life actually sometimes becomes difficult for such people like us, because I think that of course we should have a great target. Like, I will say that if your mathematics overall exam or paper is out of 100 and you have to score 100 out of 100, then I feel that if you achieve that target, that is good. But that pressure, that if it's okay if it's near 100 or it's near 90 or 80 or even 70, but of course above 50, you should always have this target to achieve above the 50%. And you should always give your 100% and expect life to give you more than 50%. This is actually great advice, because I think that sometimes you do give you 100%, but it's okay. Allah sees our efforts and He blesses us in different timeline and aspects of our life. So these kind of motivations will be continued randomly, because I think our lecture should not be totally based on very serious stuff. It should also be based on some motivational quotes and my own personal life experiences. But I think we will start from the very first chapter. It is actually, I think this whole book is very good. It has a lot of great contents, and getting to know what you are actually studying is actually a great start to have the start of book. Like, you should know what you are studying, but you should not always read all of the chapters before you are starting a book. You can stay curious about it. Like, for example, if you're starting today with my lecture, and I will prefer you should take a notebook and a pen or a pencil or a rubber, and you should make your notes with me. You can pause and then you can actually write your own notes by understanding with my lectures. I will be also sharing the visual art of solving the all the problems, and I will be sharing notes as well that I am teaching. Like, for example, if I will be completing one chapter in this whole video, then I will be uploading all whole of that chapter. But if I will be ending this video with only 3 to 5 pages of this chapter, then I will be sharing or uploading all of those chapters here in the short form. You may download it and you may study it, and you may make your own notes. You may make print out of them, and or I will prefer that you should actually download them, and you can make your own notes. Like, writing on them is the best thing to do. So, starting with the very first chapter, introduction, number systems, I will suggest that you should buy this book as well from the market, or you may download it as I am uploading in my lectures. But of course, since I will be uploading what I am teaching, this is a great idea that you should also have a hard form as well. You can buy this book from any good bookshop available in any city of Punjab or Pakistan, because overall in Punjab, I think this book is available as a course notebook. A course notebook is that mathematics is actually in whichever degree, FA, IT, FSC, pre-engineering, it is actually the compulsory subject, and compulsory subject should be studied very carefully, because it has to be passed at all cost. You cannot fail this subject, even any subject, but this compulsory means that your whole of your, actually I think all of the subjects have to be passed, whether they are elective or you may say that selective. But I think the most important thing is that the compulsory subjects are like, not in terms of this concept that they cannot be just failed. Every subject has to be passed, whether it is Urdu or English or mathematics. But the important point about these compulsory subjects is that they have to be studied so greatly that they are actually applicable in your very important aspects of your life, upcoming life. For example, maths, in doing business, in doing your daily routine tasks, in doing your daily job. Everything revolves around mathematics. But of course, students might argue that not every kind of knowledge is applicable, not every kind of you may say that topic is applicable. Like for example, there are certain chapters in this book that actually might come into the hot waters of like this knowledge is not applicable, so why are these chapters have been included in the life. I would say that knowledge should be actually useful, and it should be applied as well, because sometimes it happens that you are at a certain stage of your life and you may feel that only you are applying 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. Like in your daily life you are just using plus, minus, or additions or subtractions or divisions, but or even square roots. But I think that the detail is also actually applicable, but we do not actually understand it because we have not been taught the great way that how the all knowledge was actually applicable. I will try my best to actually explain that why this book is actually having all of those contents that must be studied, or you may say that actually yeah, like you may say that something should need an introduction on the very least. And it is not a great pressure to actually memorize everything, but you should actually know what is being studied. Like you will be knowing a lot of your friends in your class, but you will be all you will remain in contact with very few people. This is actually just to explain why the all of the, but those people who will not be in contact with you, they might come in the later stages of life. And this is just to explain why certain knowledge is useful and why certain knowledge has to be just briefly studied. So starting with the very first chapter, which is actually number systems. Introduction is like, in the very beginning human life was simple. An early ancient herdsman compared sheep or cattle of his herd with a pile of stones when the herd left for grazing, and again on its return for missing animals. Now, this example actually is actually just like simply explaining the concept of subtraction and addition, or simply counting. Like, for example, if you say that you have 6 sheep or 6 goats that actually went on a farm to eat grass. Though, so the writer is just trying to explain with these kind of examples that if you feel that you opened the door and you felt that only 4 sheep or 4 goats, whatever the animal may be, they just came, and rest of the 2 they just were left on that farm. So you will say that how many left? You will simply subtract total number 6 with the sheep or goat that actually came in their house, that were 4. So 6 minus 4 is equal to 2. So 6 minus 4 is equals to 2 means this is the concept of counting, or this is the concept of subtraction. Like you have to always put the greater number at the first, and you have to subtract the smaller number. This is the main concept of subtraction. But you will see also that sometimes this concept reverses. Reverses means that, for example, if you have 4 sheeps, and if you have 4 sheeps that actually stayed on the farm, and only two sheeps came in the house, so now you will again do 4 minus 2, and you will say that only 2 are in the difference category or in the box. Like, it is just the basic example of subtraction. Like counting, you can also count like that. In the earliest systems, probably the vertical strokes or bars, such as 1, 2, 3, and etc., they were used for the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Like, they are actually saying that the writer or the author of this book is actually explaining the concept that the Romans actually, or the Egyptians, they actually introduced the concept of counting. And they said that, for example, if you have a vertical stroke, means like you just place a vertical line. So I am actually on the page number 2 of this chapter, and I am reading the first paragraph for introduction, and I will upload it. So it means that the vertical stroke means you just place simply a line. That means that is 1. Then you place another line with it, that is 2. Like, you can count. You can actually count by placing these lines. And I think this concept was like, you may say that, unending, right? For example, if you have 5 lines, then you can actually draw 5 lines to explain that, okay, this means that there were total 5 sheeps. Like, in early era, or in even in today's time, unfortunately, if you have ever seen such a movie, or you have ever seen such a documentary in which a person is actually held as a prisoner, that person actually chalks out lines to actually mark his calendar, or to actually mark his number of days that he spent in that prison. And then he just chalks it out like diagonally, and diagonally means he just makes a cross. And that means that he just invented his own number system, right? For example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vertical strokes, vertical lines, and then a cross over it would mean that 6 lines or 5 lines. And then if he draws a 6th or 7th line, that means he actually spent 7 days. Like, 6 vertical lines and 7th cross would mean that he actually spent 7 days in that prison. Because this is actually just the method to tell yourself that I am counting my days. So this is actually the mathematics started, counting, the concept of counting. But if it is like unending days, like you will have to add 7th line, 8th line, 9th line, and then you will be adding a constant series of lines. Series means that you will be just adding a lot of strokes, vertical lines to count and write it. Then this will be an unending system, or an unending, you may say that, unending line. So this is called infinite. But numbers should be written like they are written today, like 1 stands for 1, and 2 we write actually 2, and 3 and 4. Because I think this is like you are just summing up all those lines in the form of a 1 number, because that is much easier to write. The symbol, it is written that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 was used by many people, including the ancient Egyptians, for the number of fingers of one hand. Like, if you count your whole fingers of one hand, you actually have 5 fingers. But I think naturally there are some miracles, or you may say that medical astonishments, that some people do have 6 fingers. So whatever the number of fingers that have they on their hand or hands, actually it explains that Egyptians or Romans actually used the method of counting to actually you know, to start with the counting process. And then it is written that around 5000 B.C means before Christ. Around 5000 before Christ, the Egyptians had a number system based on 10. Now they say that this is actually right, the tenure. Before Christ means that before Christ is actually a time when Hazrat Isa alayhi salam was actually born. And before Christ means that before his birth. Christ is actually referred to his name. And Egyptians had a number system, and 5000 before Christ means that actually 5000 years. 5000 years of our earth before his birth. The Egyptians had a number system based on 10. Now we have a binary system, right? So Egyptians actually introduced that, and they said that it is actually based on 10. The symbol, now they are using this symbol, which is actually the symbol inverted U for 10, and they then used this kind of swirly symbol for 10 for 100 as well. They were used by them. A symbol was repeated as many times as it was needed. Now they say that actually a symbol was repeated as many times as it was needed, because they said that, for example, the numbers 13 and 324, they were symbolized as, like, they were using for 10 the union symbol but inverted U, and then because it was meant for 10, right? And then for number 3 they placed vertical strokes, and then they just made this symbol and the swirly symbols as well, respectively. The symbol, swirly symbol, was I am just using this because it refers to as if it was a symbol of counting, because it was like wind. You can actually just they just used, I think they might have just actually used as a beautiful symbol inspired by wind, was interpreted as 100 plus 100 plus 100 plus 10 plus 10 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. Like, they just explain that this is what we actually counted, and when we actually counted, we actually used it in their knowledge. This is actually I think they are trying to explain that counting was actually introduced before Christ, but Egyptians and Romans actually adopted that. Different people invented their own symbols for numbers, but these systems of notations proved to be inadequate with advancement of societies and were discarded. Now they say that notations is like something that you actually specify a symbol for something. For example, if you say that I will be using a glass of water to actually explain the concept of water, then you will be just actually explaining or drawing the symbol of glass every single time to explain the concept of water. This is actually just the concept or definition of notation. That is, you are just using one symbol. Symbol means that, for example, if you say that I like sweets, but you say that I will be always mentioning chocolates, then chocolate will be like explaining that, okay, this child actually likes sweets. So, but these symbols, they say that with time discarded means that they were just not in use, and they were just left for use because they were too complex. Complex means they were unending. They were not like, you can say that quite brief or specific. Specific means that you actually have to explain a lot of stuff sometimes, and then you just and that is actually needed when you write a detailed report. But sometimes you just have to make a brief statement out of something, and that is actually used as a thumb rule sometimes. And these three things are entirely separate, because thumb rule is that you will write 1 for 1, 2 for 2, like we do nowadays, but they just actually wrote a number of lines, and I think that was actually not confusing. It is just that it was their method of interpretation of numbers and counting. It is our method of interpretation of 1 2 3. So I think if those people just come alive right now, or they are introduced to our concept, they might also be confused, because they might say that we introduced our symbol and you have just changed it. But I think if they are understandable, like language, in terms of language, like for example, they were born, now they were gone, and now they are new people on earth, and they have actually created these 1 2 3 counting and etc. So I think it's okay to adopt a new updated language. But of course, respecting their invention, that they actually invented, that is actually very important. Because if they had not invented the concept of counting, then humans would not have been able to update this knowledge. So this is actually, I think, a task of appreciation for them as well. Ultimately, the set 1 2 3 4 with base 10 was adopted as the counting set, also called the set of natural numbers. Now, what are sets? We will be discussing the concept of sets as well in upcoming videos. But I think a set overall is like something that you actually arrange in some form, and you say that, for example, if you say I have 6 goats or I have 6 chocolates, and you arrange it and you see it and you enclose them in a box, then you will say that I have 6 chocolates in a box. This is a set of 6 chocolates, right? Or you may say that you have 6 goats and you just place them in a barn or a cattle farm, and you just say that there are 6 goats in, and they are a set of 6 goats. That is also fine, because an example can be placed like that. This is called the concept of sets, which will be discussed next.